It's on now. I see the schedule one. Yeah, three. It's no wish. Well, let's see. The way you know. Yeah, three. Love, and now all one. It's on now. I see the schedule one. Yeah, three.
Untitled Beatles Podcast.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week on Twitch and Shout. Good night.
Good night.
Hey, it's the Untitled Beatles Podcast presents Twitch and Shout right here on Twitch live on Thanksgiving for breaking Beatles news. Tony's got the scoop. Take it, Tony.
Well, yeah, man. Well, yeah. Hi, I'm Tony, and that's my friend TJ. It's the Untitled Beatles Podcast doing Twitch and Shout here on Twitch. I think I just said everything you just said, TJ, just with my voice.
You've got a better radio voice.
Oh, yeah.
We want to let's address the elephant in the room. Beatle fans are talking about one thing today. We've been counting down for months for this. And I want to get started with it. Paul McCartney's Kisses on the Bottom. Is this better than the White Album? Do we like the Guys and Dolls cover of here? Fucking, what's the tune he put covered? More I Cannot Wish You, the most obscure song from Guys and Dolls. The next hour, we're going to talk about this.
Yeah. I didn't see Get Back. I was busy listening to Sniff the Bottom of My Shoe. What's that album called?
What is it? The Rick Rubin show? Sniff the Bottom of My Shoe. Hashtag WikiFeed, as Tony might say. No, it's Get Back Day. Happy Get Back Day.
Happy Get Back Day, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Let's see some... Preston laser fingers.
That's right. So they called me in college. You want to hear why? You like the distortion? Casey, can you fix? Let's welcome our producer, Casey Baker. Producer Casey's there with us.
Yeah.
Hey.
Howdy. Hey, guys.
First off, happy Thanksgiving, man.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thankful to have this group of folks to gab about Fab 4 with tonight.
Happy holidays. I took a singing class.
So we all watched Get Back, right? And thank you all for tuning in. I see some hellos already. Hello for Shantae and Evan or something.
Hey, everybody.
Kucharzm. I'm not sure how to say that, but thanks all for spending your Thanksgiving with us. Yeah. Who was the first? Let's play this quick draw game. Who was the first to watch it?
That's a bullshit question. It was you. Didn't you wake up to watch it at 4 a.m. Central?
Well, my cat woke me up. And I checked the time, and it was 3:11 a.m. And I was like, you know what? In honor of the Rocky Mountain rock rap sensations 311, I am down with getting up to watch Get Back.
Rocky Mountain rap is the
Beatle Dave here's 2:01 Central Time. Is he our earliest?
Beatle Dave wins.
You win, Dave. That's amazing.
Beatle Dave wins. I put mine on about 3:30 a.m. Yeah. Stayed up till 3 a.m. to watch it. Lemau. That's Hawaiian. Same backwards as forwards.
That's right. You say Lemau, I say Lemau. Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch it until this afternoon. I had to do my patriotic duty as a Bears fan. Well, first we watched the Macy's Day Parade. I love failing department stores, so we watched the Macy's Day Parade, and then we watched the Bears start to lose, and I turned off the game about 2:00 Central and finally watched it. And Casey, when did you watch?
Well, as a true Chicagoan, even though I'm in LA currently, we woke up to watch the Sears Roebuck Parade.
That's right. But what was the Bud Billiken parade on tape delay?
I woke up at about 6:30 and I just put it on first thing. I just couldn't wait. And I got permission from my wife to play it loudly. She said, just shut the door.
That's great.
Try not to wake her up. So I played it full volume in our living room and just, soaked it.
That's great. Yeah, I would say I did have to do it quiet. I had the volume at like 14 or something like that. But I fucking loved it. But Curtis Earth says, my friend watched at 3 p.m. and said the channel crashed. Disney Plus was down.
I was a little worried about that. That's part of why I was like, I'm putting it on now, because these sorts of things like, Game of Thrones season finale would always crash the HBO app. And I was like, this is going to happen. Yeah.
I did watch it again at 6 p.m. and somewhere around the 90-minute mark, it froze up and I had to like reset things. And so.
See, we watched with my 5-year-old, so at the 90-minute mark, I had to turn on fucking Frozen. So we had a similar experience. I couldn't let it go. It was interesting watching this. I was telling Casey and Tony off air, watching this with my wife, Carrie, who is a Beatle fan, obviously nowhere near the chaos of us, and my 5.5-year-old, who certainly likes the Beatles, but it's, can I throw the thesis out? And I think you know where this is going. For the diehard Beatle fan, including Anthology, there's never been a more intimate and thorough look at the relationship of those 4 men and their world ever. For the casual Beatle fan, or the kind of like my wife level Beatle fan, it's a lot.
There's so much. That's what I thought.
Lot. Wonderful, but a lot.
That's what I thought. Yeah, watching it when I first watched it alone, I was like, "Oh, what are casual fans? Are they going to make it through this? Are they going to get bored and be like they're just bickering, etc.?" Should we say this before we go on?
Yes,
there's going to be spoilers. Like we're going to have to spoil the shit out of this. So if you haven't seen it yet, go watch it, perhaps, or be spoiled. Right?
Well, spoiler number 1, when Pete Best comes back to replace George at the end. First of all, who knew Pete Best could play guitar like that? You should hear Pete Best play the Two of Us rhythm on guitar. He really teaches George.
He did what Paul wanted.
Right.
Also, bullshit move by Peter Jackson to steal the thunder on Pete Best's 80th birthday. Instead, all of us are talking about his bullshit documentary.
Another fuck you to Pete Best. Evan's got a great point here. Disney should have made a shorter cut for the casual fans. I think that's coming. I think there's a 100-minute preview that the Beatles family saw in theaters that will be for mass release. So I am reviewing this from the place of a 40-some-year diehard when I say that I mean, nothing can replace the sweep of Anthology, but Tony, you've been following as carefully as me for just as long. Like, have you ever seen, other than A Hard Day's Night, which was kind of improv scripted, have you ever seen this long of this much of those 4 men interacting? I couldn't believe what I was watching.
Yeah. I loved it. I am no longer scared of the Disney they kept all the fucks. They show, there's not ever going to be footage of John smoking heroin or whatever, but they get some long shots of him. Yeah. But there's moments where you see John really out of it. And so like, that's maybe kind of the way of saying like, hey, this is going on, let's hang on John's face during this conversation for 35 seconds or whatever. I fucking loved it.
You bring up John. Is it possible? Let's just kind of throw this out there. We all who know the Beatles story are aware of Yoko being next to John for the inordinate majority of those sessions, but seeing it this long at Twickenham and knowing it was almost every day sitting right there next to him, the way they tolerated Yoko is a massive gift. Unless Peter, I almost called him Phil Jackson. I've got the balls in my mind. Unless Peter Jackson cut some negative Yoko stuff, like John at one point, I don't know where this was, if this was on the roof or wherever, where John accused Paul of singing Get Back and looking at Yoko. I don't think we've seen that. But unless something like that's been cut out, the way they all tolerate Yoko and accept her is a testament to their acceptance and kind of gives a middle finger to the myth of, oh, they all must have hated Yoko. They were very tolerant of her in ways that, because you've seen her with him in the original Let It Be, but the length of time that she's with them, that's a lot.
Yeah. Yes. And I want to add to that, though. I think there was an important reframing from Peter Jackson in this. The opening scene, and I'll drop this and then I'll go back. I got to get back to making the pipes run behind the scenes.
Making the pipes of peace run. You're not just an average person, Casey. Nip, 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 nip.
Oh, brother. But the way that he opens with George's weird friend just sitting in the corner and
Oh, the
how
Hare
long
Krishna?
he's there until he gets the little text introduction, that to me totally recontextualizes this. It's like, oh, wait. So George can have his weird friend silently sitting in the corner. That's way weirder than Yoko hanging out next to John.
That's true. That's true. And then there were two. Then I think
Yeah.
what was it, day 3? I think there were 2. I forget. I actually did take notes my second time around. But yeah, day 3 Hare Krishna count too.
Thanks for Shanti for backing me up on that. Right. And then you see Linda come in later, and like I think I had always imagined, you know, the lore of it is like somehow bringing Yoko in is like breaking the sacred space of the band and like bringing somebody else into that dynamic. And it's like, oh no. Everyone showed up and was like, no, my Hare Krishna buddies are going to be sitting cross-legged in the corner too.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm going to go check out comments.
Or whatever. Oh, okay.
You guys get back at it.
He
I'll be around. Call me if you need.
You will. Good luck.
Well, I just watched it with my wife Lauren, and she was really floored by the presence of Yoko, just the constant presence of Yoko. Other than there's one time when she's not there, and that I think is that moment when Lennon is, I think, at his most somewhere else.
Oh yeah.
I forget which day that is, day 5 or something like that, where he stumbles getting his jacket off of the chair and
at the glazed look in his eyes.
Yeah, man. I feel like I'm now I'm the John Heroin guy. It's like, that's not my bag. I'm just saying, I'm so glad that I do feel that Peter Jackson is giving us the real thing, and it's not Willy Wonka or whatever, you know.
It's the most smoking there's ever been on Disney Plus. I struggle seeing George with a cigarette by virtue of how he died. And some say that he was doing better until the stabbing, but George had lung cancer that spread to his brain. It always makes me feel especially yucky when I look at film of the Beatles smoking, whether it's in, like Hard Day's Night or in interviews. And there's a lot of cigarette smoking in this, and knowing how we lost George and Neil Aspinall, it kind of.
Was that how we lost Neil too?
I believe Neil Aspinall died of cancer. Yeah, shortly after. And when did Jeff Jones take over? In the early 2000s. I think Neil Aspinall died shortly after Beatles 1, I think. Help me out here, Beatle fans. But yeah, at any rate, the cigarette smoking, while certainly antiquated and laughable for the era it was, gives me some sadness because that's how we lost George.
Yeah. And I mean, we can get into the whole tragedy. I mean, every time I see Mal Evans, I'm always like, oh, he was shot by cops or whatever in 74 or whatever it was. And that's like, oh, and Jimmy Nicol and all that. Did you love that they mentioned Jimmy?
And it calls him Jimmy Nichols, which I think is great too. They can't even get Jimmy Nichols' name right.
That was on day 1, when Ringo's putting his foot down about travel, like Ringo's not traveling, and Paul says,
Jimmy Nichols.
Look at Jimmy Nicol. Before the Clapton, we'll get Clapton on Tuesday or whatever. Like
they won't even entertain bringing Pete Best back in. Going to find her. Diddle 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 diddle.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday, Pete. Happy birthday, Pete. We got some comments. Should we look at some of these comments?
Yeah, let's throw some of these on here.
Love the shot of Linda and Yoko chatting and smiling Troy. Yeah, man, I thought that was great. That's
a big one.
That finally got Yoko out of whatever like puppy dog, like she, that moment where she actually rubs her nose on on John's sleeve while he's playing I forget if it was piano or organ, the Lowry, but yes, that was a wonderful moment. Those two, Mal Evans and the Anvil.
So
all right,
was this?
I didn't hear Mal. Right? Yeah, I didn't hear Mal off time. I didn't hear Mal off time.
Hogg let it be. He's like a split second off beat.
Michael, I'm gonna start calling Michael Lindsay Hogg, Michael Lindsay Boss Hogg, because all those fucking stogies he's smoking.
Just a good old boy. Thank you, everybody. Never meaning. Why don't the Beatles sing the Dukes? Why do they hate Waylon Jennings?
How come the Beatles can't drive a car on 2 wheels?
I got a fantasy of Yoko and a pair of Daisy Dukes. Love Daisy Duke.
She did though. She when they got married, wasn't she wearing some Daisy Dukes? I thought.
Yes, that's right.
Right?
When they're
yeah.
And Catherine, don't call me Barbara Bach.
Very good. We didn't get to see Barbara Bach. We got to see at the end Maureen. We got to see Maureen
yeah.
at the very end on day 7.
Thanks, Mo.
Thanks, Mo. Yeah, so it's, I mean, yeah, you've seen it, if perhaps everyone watching seen it, but yeah, it's the first 7 days, all at Twickenham. Yeah, man. I don't know how to. Actually, I do know how to do this, but like, where do we even start? Where do we start? Like, I love it. We've already established that. Go ahead.
Here's how I'm going to start, Tony. It's just not long enough. No, I say that with all gratitude for those who haven't read the same articles I've read. The prevailing wisdom now is that this went from theatrical release to, during the pandemic, 6-hour home streaming release,
right,
to now I think it clocks in at almost 8 hours when all 3 nights are added up.
Yeah,
or
we'll
like
see, right?
7
I
and a
don't
half.
know what the other 2 are. Yeah.
So I am so happy. There was, as I mentioned on our podcast, the Untitled Beatles podcast, we see most people watching, and thank you for tuning into us on Twitch, by the way. We are so appreciate it. Most people have heard us talk about this. I just lost my train of thought. We'll be right back. Fuck. We'll do it live. We'll do it live.
See, yeah,
Okay.
we can't edit this shit out. We don't have any drops to save us, TJ. We don't have any Casey Baker magic too.
Oh, like on the Beatle fan Facebook page, when this was announced in June, there were a couple people kind of thundering, I'm not getting Disney Plus. I'm not sticking it to. I'm not, like, I get it, but how's Disney Plus worse than Netflix, or at this point Peacock or Hulu? It's a streaming platform that offers content. Whatever your problem is, I didn't like Aladdin. What's your problem? Like, it's, thank God it's on Disney Plus, because we're getting almost 8 hours of Beatle content that I think I never. Here's another observation I have for you, Tony. I want to get your thoughts on this. The fact that some of the stuff from the Let It Be movie is cut short in here. 2 of Us is shorter. Susie Parker is shorter.
Yeah, right.
There's some of the numbers we saw in longer form in the Michael Lindsay Boss Hogg version are cut here, which makes me think we're definitely going to see a remaster of the Michael Lindsay Hogg Let It Be. The fact that they went with different edits of some of the things that are longer in the original 1970 film, Apple's definitely going to put this out on home video, I would expect.
Yeah, that is one thing. I got 2 points to make. The first one is I didn't miss any of the stuff that was in Let It Be that I didn't see this time around. Like, I feel like, okay, I've seen that, because also some of that was doubled up in anthology, and like, I've seen that, so it was cool to see. Yeah, I thought I would miss it. I didn't. And then the second point is, if instead of being on Disney, if they were on Crackle, we would get at least 4 hours per night. So I just want to make that point. That's why I'm anti-Disney.
I hope the next Beatles doc is on Cheddar. I'm still not sure what that is. I think they have news. Like, why is Cheddar coming up my Alexa?
It's news that pays you, to watch it. Like, oh, cool. Fill my head with fucking garbage. I'll make money. That's the future of news. I love that pre-roll. What did you think of the history bit? Like, what was it, 10 minutes or whatever it was? I don't even know.
With the exception of the age-old problem of showing the Yellow Submarine movie during Yellow Submarine in '66 as part of Revolver, that still rubs me a little the wrong way.
It felt weird. It did.
It felt weird.
That's a purist thing.
Yeah, and I get it. It was a perfect, and I love the way it was. Not, you're a film guy, not letterbox. What do you call the way it was presented? It was
it was in like 4:3, like a TV set, right?
Brubeck like made 4:3 famous.
Take
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1. There's my Brubeck for you.
4/4 Brubeck. That's the way it should be.
Dude, that's exactly. Take 5. How about take 4? This is America. I thought the pre-roll was handled perfectly, because it gave you the sweep of the Beatles story. It was, the quick cuts were so good, and all the essential stuff. I love they had a moment of John apologizing for the Bigger Than Jesus at the famous press conference at Chicago's, and I think it's the Ambassador East.
I'm gonna say you're right.
East, the Ambassador West. But on State Parkway in Chicago, longtime famous hotels, where John made that apology for the misquoted Maureen Cleave comment. In any Beatles doc, you have to show footage of assholes in Memphis stomping on records. I think that's you need to sign a contract.
And the
that
Minneapolis
says,
Klan guy.
and there's going to be a disturbance.
Evan says, when I first watched the pre-roll part, the only thing I could think of was the opening scene of the Ruddles.
A living legend, a legend that has lived longer than other. Yes, so
chasing the
Evan,
cameraman.
great call.
I love
call.
the Ruddles. I love the Ruddles. I'll say this. Okay, yeah, I think the last time we talked of speculating about what this was going to be, I was like, oh, I think I'd like it to be like Pulp Fiction or whatever. I said like it would be fun if it was cut up in a way that messed with time and continuity, etc. But it's chronological, and I love it. Actually, I love it. I love the calendar format. I love how it's set up. I like a lot of the little montagey things that they do, like during I'm So Tired with Paul singing I'm So Tired, and that collage of everybody like yawning and John, was he asleep? I don't know.
He's asleep at the piano.
Yeah, maybe he's really tired. I don't know. We don't know. It was all speculation, but I love those things. And they kind of seem to like, I don't know if some of them seem to button the day, you know, and get us onto the new day. I really like that. And I guess I didn't know, like, I don't know why I didn't know this, but I really thought they already had all of January. I didn't know they had till like January, whatever it is, 18th or whatever.
24th, I think.
24th.
Here's a question for you.
Right.
They treat with let's hear for Dennis O'Dell. They treat Ringo's commitment to film Magic Christian like it's Charlton Heston doing Ben-Hur. You don't understand. Ringo's got to be available for the shooting of. It's going to make $8,000 in theaters. We
great
need
script.
him desperatly.
Have you ever watched it?
I
watched it a long time ago in the 90s. It was around the same time I saw the Let It Be film for the first time on like a bootleg cassette. Thank you, Chicago, for real, for saying we're a great show. Thank you. I remember. I mean, I don't remember much about it either. I was drinking beer and I was in a timeshare in the desert of California.
Jesus. Like everyday Burning Man for you? What was going on?
No, I mean, no, like this is like the Tony, like Cathedral City. Like, you know, it's like, anyway. I was watching the Beatles and we were like prank calling, you know, the people that did those 900 numbers to like Home Shopping Network. We were like prank calling Home Shopping Network. That's what I was doing back then. But
much respect.
I love that George starts with one cushion and then at one point it becomes two cushions that he's sitting on. I don't know if you noticed that. There's like a special insert shot of like George getting cushions. Another cushion. So funny. And that orange juice that they're drinking early on. Then you see him drinking beer. I love the food. I love seeing the dry buns or whatever.
That plate of sandwiches. It's funny. You mentioned orange juice. You know, it just to cut to the end because we can go in any order here. George, I don't think poor George. That's right.
It's true. Poor George.
Sorry, George. This is Yoko's.
And Ringo also keeps switching his stools out. You know what I mean? His throne. If you're a drummer, you have to call it a throne because you have fucking issues. But it's
hey, dude, Ludwig or Zildjian? Who you got?
Well, I use DW for my throne.
I use DSW. I drum on Discount Shoes.
I didn't mean to interrupt. You were saying shoes.
I got a coupon. I don't remember. Oh yeah. So at the end, when George walks out shortly after, I don't think I ever knew. I claim Beatle ignorance here. I don't think I ever knew that the "See Around the Clubs, I Quit the Band" walkout came after struggling with Paul with the rhythm of Get Back. I don't think I knew it came from there. And you mentioned orange juice. And George in the All Things Must Pass session sings Get Back for a moment and talks about Mal mopping up another glass of orange. It's so funny build up and returning to the band after having such wonderful time with Bob Dylan and with members of the band. It's interesting that he chose to cover that tune. Yeah. Totally. Yes, that's another. And when George and Ringo are working on stuff, it's like just them around. Yeah, that's a great observation, Beatle Dave.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, Lauren had a great observation during that moment when they're on day 7. and their work, and John and Paul have this. She called it a love. It's a love story. It's like this love story between John and Paul, and this relationship that is in its twilight. Thank you. And it's intercut with these tight shots, these Norman Lear tight shots of George being like on his own island outside of it, and McCartney and Lennon are nose to nose. Like there's something very intimate about the way they're working, and he's left out. And then I also didn't know that him saying like I'm leaving the band now. I didn't know that was on film. I thought that was just on audio. So I loved actually seeing that. That to me was wowzers.
Right after the guy running audio, not Pete Shotton. I'm forgetting the audio guy's name goes.
The film audio guy.
The film audio guy. Are we still rolling? And then you see a quick cut.
We're still turning.
Dramatic.
Are we still turning over? Yeah, and then the DP says cut, and then thank you, Evan, and then ending with the isn't it giving George the last word. I thought was brilliant.
Showing his diary. Hi, Casey. It's producer Casey. Correction.
No, I don't even have a correction. I just wanted to echo Evan's sentiment. I cried, man. I was not expecting to cry. I knew what was going to happen. I was not emotional, and then hearing those lyrics, just like, and as you were saying, giving George the last word on it was just it was surprisingly emotional for me.
Yeah.
Animating his diary was a beautiful touch.
So beautiful.
Yeah, that was cool. Now, he went away. I was wondering, should there have been did you want a trigger warning about it?
I did. As the millennial of the show, I was like, look, I did not sign up for serious emotions. I thought I was coming here for a safe space.
Why do you people want to say...
The hammer on the anvil, the violence of that. Just to be clear, I actually trigger warnings are important, and I hate people who shit on them.
Ooh.
I'm ironically shitting on them right now, just so we're clear.
Well, because it's always the people going, "Oh, you snowflakes! What trigger warnings? Why did you get some balls? Why did Starbucks cancel the Christmas cup?" The fuck, guy?
Who's the snowflake?
Thank you for getting that, Casey. There were. What are some other moments? Oh, I thought another fun moment. Remember when I think George is playing bass, and that guitar Eric Clapton gave him, that Les Paul, that red Les Paul, Lucy crashes off.
Just comes falling down. Yeah, nobody cares.
They're doing Maxwell's Silver Hammer, of course. But yeah, I wrote down what is it? Lucy on the ground with orange juice.
Somebody called Weird Al, and apparently Kid Rock, who's doing parodies of his own songs now. I want to tee you up with something I don't know if you're expecting. First off, the big question, I want all of our fans to weigh into this. This is probably the question of the night here. Which is better, Get Back or the unauthorized Fun with the Fab 4 VHS from 93 or 94? We'll figure that one out.
What is that? Is that like them playing Twister or something?
No, it's one of those. I have it on video. It's all black and white, like newsreel footage of, and the Beatles came to Cleveland, and Cleveland said... Fun. Yeah, so it's
like going to the library and getting all the microfiche about the Beatles or whatever.
Exactly. I did want to tee you up with this, Tony. What is, and we tried to swear in this, what is your holy shit fucking moment? Like, was there one moment, because I had multiple oh my God moments. Was there one in particular that made you go, oh my? Or oh my, as Ringo once sang? I phoned up my doctor. We know you did, Ringo.
I loved seeing, I mean, to me, the most holy shit thing was the jam session after George left. And then just the chaos of all those versions of those songs and Paul clambering around.
Climbing like a monkey on the scaffolding.
Yeah. Scaffold again. His
Mike McCartney.
Mike McCartney's band. A little plug for Scaffold. Check them out.
They need
They're
it.
obscure.
What's better, that one Scaffold album or the Badfinger album on Warner Brothers nobody heard?
Or the Jackie Lomax record. I still want to do a deep dish on the Jackie Lomax record. That's good.
Yeah, man. Sour Milk Sea's a great tune. Okay, so for me, it was that the Enoch Powell stuff got so much play.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't believe, and it's funny because in the end credits, Commonwealth gets its own, like now EMI or the Beatles
Yeah.
have to, ATV, whatever, who owns them now, they're registered as separate songs. So there's a Beatles song on the catalog now. Will there be sheet music for Commonwealth? Like the complete Beatles scores volume 2?
And I want to say there's actually another one of those in the credits for a song called Enoch Powell, I think, because
Yes, there is.
For 2 seconds he just says like Enoch Powell, and does it. And also Paul's playing a lot of bass chords, which I noticed, at least at Twickenham. You know, you don't really hear it on the record, but it was cool to see him playing bass chords. It's a really full sound. Yeah, I love that they did I love that they include, that was another part of the thing that I'm glad that Disney didn't shy away from, was the no Pakistanis, Puerto Ricans, all that stuff, and putting it into the proper context so it doesn't get,
co-opted by dickbags.
Right.
They did over apologize for it. There were like 18 news articles that popped up about what was happening at the time, plus a text graphic that said the Beatles were satirizing Enoch Powell and are in no way racist.
Yes.
I think though that shot though of literally the magazine being, or the newspaper being carried by on set, like that was the money of just like, it just sets the context of like, oh, they weren't just doing that out of the blue. It's like that was in the headlines that morning, and the headlines were in the studio with them that morning. That was helpful.
Yes.
Now, what did you think about some of those shots? Because I want to say Peter Jackson recreated a few insert shots.
He did,
such
and
as
they
that
said they
one,
would.
right?
There was a disclaimer at the top of the film that said he would.
Okay. Yeah. It was that and the Beatle book or whatever when they're going over. Yeah. But that one where the Daily Mirror is being held, that I mean, I guess you just set up the ground. They probably went to Twickenham and got some guy in the same pants and some wires and cables. I mean,
I will say I do want to make sure we hit some of the great holy fucking shit moments from the crowd. But before we do, I do feel like the mechanics of it were visible a lot of the time. And I don't think I minded it, but it's so much footage of the back of somebody's head while you're hearing the audio. Like I did feel like there were a lot of times that we're stretching, like it was really just giving us something to look at while we listened. And I didn't mind that. It was like so much more digestible than the stuff on the Let It Be special edition where you're just listening and it's kind of hard to follow, but you get the subtitles and you get the context, and you could sort of see the puppet strings being pulled, but I don't think I minded it.
Yeah. And some of the stuff seemed out of sync, right? Like right? Okay. I wanted
especially some of the playing,
Yeah. I couldn't tell. It's like, oh, is that a streaming thing, or is that just because this is the footage they had and we have this audio?
Yeah, well, that was the disclaimer at the top of the show said there was and by the way, I want to bring this up, that carry that weight moment. What hit me as a 40-some-year fan of this band was it January 7th where Paul's working on Carry That Weight, Let It Be, and Long and Winding Road in one fucking day. Any other songwriter claims one of those songs as their standard. Paul McCartney's got those 3 songs he's working out in one day. It is, if anything, this movie cements the argument that, I mean, maybe after for Tony after Foreigner, there's no better band. And I just want to say
311. Sounds like you watched the Macy's parade because they played that today.
We couldn't believe it. The Macy's theme. Why? My wife and I were like, "Why is Foreigner on? It's 2021. Like they must be." Did Live Nation sponsor the Macy's Day parade? Like the fuck.
That was for Shantae. The Jimmy Nichols comment was so funny. Paul's such an ass.
For Jimmy Nichols or Denny Lane.
Denny Lane, right? Evan says his moment was when they were playing the Palace of the King of the Birds, and then the All Things Must Pass. Yeah, with Paul. Paul.
May I throw something in here, Evan? Thanks for pointing that out. Castle of the King of the Birds is the fucking Top Gun theme. I'm like, Jesus Christ, did Kenny Loggins have something to do? We've long said Kenny Loggins is the 9th Beatle on this show. But as they're playing, I'm like, wow, is that the love theme from Top Gun?
Great. I'm gonna go start working on that mashup now for the.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Next week at the end of this. Yeah, that's neat too, Troy.
Oh yeah, with him coming up with the descending bit, right? Yeah, Glenn Johns arranging "Let It Be on the Fly." That was cool. Oh, getting back to "Carry That Weight," though, I had expressed like in the reading in the book that dialogue. It was so great to hear it as the comedy song, and I love it that the weight ends up being his own head. Like now I hear that song really different. I used to hear it more like, he's not heavy, he's my brother or whatever, but now I hear it like, oh, cool, comedy. Please.
Speaking of comedy, we're all juvenile. But I laughed out loud when that came out.
Yeah, my wife laughed at that one too. I thought it was, and it's right there in the first whatever minute. That's day one, if I recall. And that was great to have John just jump right in with "Everybody Had a Hard Year," seeing the Genesis. So seeing song Genesis, I've Got a Feeling, that was amazing. Day one, and then Get Back, of course, when John's late, Lennon's late again.
I mean, seeing that song emerge from. I mean, that was one of my big takeaway from this is like trying to imagine a world where these songs didn't exist, which is extremely hard for me. And that moment solidified it for me, which is like, oh, right. Like Paul McCartney, like pulled that from the ether and made that real, and getting to watch that happen in real time was like, it was like seeing into the abyss of like the magic of nature. It was such a moving moment.
Totally. Yeah. It's seeing the masters at work in kind of in real time to a degree. And that said, I also love all the time that they spent on stuff that never made it. Like all those like call and response harmonies on "Don't Let Me Down." That went on for a long time, man.
Yeah.
With all the arguments ensuing about it and the fractious, nature.
Fractious. Yeah. It's the best and worst of Paul, because there are some, and I believe, I'm forgetting which commenter, forgive me, just kind of called Paul an asshole. And there is an element that one could say Paul's an asshole. There's another that could say without Paul McCartney, certainly post Brian Epstein, nothing would have been accomplished. Paul was the musical director because he had to be.
Well, yeah, right. And they nail it on the head with Brian. Like they have it all figured out. They know why they're in this tar pit, but like you're still in it. Like, great, we're in this tar pit and we're stuck, and how do we get out? And then you got three people saying like, let's go to Tripoli and let's go on a boat, and just complicating, confusing everything.
When they showed the QE2, I wanted Casey to edit in Paul on a boat going, rub a soul, hey, ding, ding. I really wanted to see that great anthology moment. Paul helping Give Me Some Truth was astonishing. Great. Like, I knew about it. I'd heard it, certainly never seen it. And to see it in that context is a reminder that like one of the most powerful John songs from Imagine, Paul McCartney was helping write in 1969. It's so crazy.
I'm looking because he had funny lyrics that were different. What was it?
Oh, it was the son of Gary Cooper instead of son of Tricky Dick.
Yeah, right. It was something like freaked out Gary Cooper, son of Gary Cooper. I thought that was hilarious.
Tony, am I misremembering? That moment for me also made me really grateful that didn't end up as a Beatles song, because there was something that was kind of like plotting and Beatley about it, and it is one of the like hardest hitting John Lennon songs. Was that one of your takes from the special edition of like, this is a John Lennon song and we're all lucky that it didn't make the cut?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with you on that. Like it works better as a John song. It was funny too, because you hear Paul trying to give it some other change. Or it felt like a different change, but it goes back into the verse again. But it sounded different. It sounded like he was trying to come up with a third part or something like that.
You've long, Tony, called Paul a poor man's Klaus Vormann. So now we really saw that in practice today.
Have you seen his drawing for the Revolver cover?
Paul's Revolver cover. So Barry Miles says it's great. I agree with that.
Oh, I love that too for Shantae. Yeah, when Paul, and that's when Linda's there. That's the first day Linda arrives, and he's at the piano like, oh, I'm gonna go noodle around the piano, and I love seeing the boom mic like following them and him. But yeah, him playing Another Day, and that's his first solo single, right?
Well, you know nothing. In Italy, they released a single from the Family Way soundtrack. You know nothing.
You're right. I'm a Beatle doofus, but
how did Tony not know about the Family Way single in Italy on Odeon? I made that all up. I made every bit of that was made up. Yeah, there's another thing here that I wanted to throw out because let's get this out of the way. Tony and I just watched the 1970 Let It Be from VHS transfer bootlegs. The picture quality, the audio quality is spectacular too, but the way the Beatles, Twickenham no longer looks dark. Every copy of Let It Be I've ever seen has a dark, ominous look. The brightness of the colors. I don't know if this would qualify for an Oscar or an Emmy because it's a film that's on TV. I guess it'd be an Emmy, but it is.
Oh, right. Yeah.
The cleanup of the original footage is astonishing and game-changing. When you talked about the pre-roll, Tony, even some of the black and white stuff we've seen before, arriving at Kennedy Airport, some of the Ed Sullivan, some of those things, the remaster that this company of Peter Jackson's did, I can't wait to see what they do like with other stuff that we think looks fine and turns out like all the Ed Sullivan stuff. It'd be great to see kind of go through this. The other thing I want to mention very quickly, Tony, is Michael Lindsay Hogg comes off a hero. Michael Lindsay Hogg's been dogged because of how bad the Let It Be thing is in the Beatles' minds. Michael Lindsay Hogg, after this, comes off to me looking heroic after episode 1. I know that's a lot. Please take it away.
Oh, Casey disagrees.
Strong disagree. Like
Really?
I came away from this being like, that guy, it was a combination of him constantly like trying to be like, well, what do you think? It felt like you could feel the vultures swirling around the Beatles and no one could really sort of get the Brian Epstein, like, let's get together and make a decision. And there was a lot of like, so what do you think Paul thinks about this? Or, just like, there's that shit of like whispering in ears. And then the other moment that like really lost him for me was like some of that, like, and then, then you put the song on that makes you cry. He just sort of like is naming some of the things that are like known. And it's like, when you name them out loud, it's way less cool about like why the music works. And
lost,
I'm not saying you owe the world this, like the sort of way he leaned on them to be like, we all need you. And I just like feel like if I was in that band, I'd be like, shut the fuck up. Like, get this guy out of here. But I don't know.
But I also get it. I totally get it. But this dude's under pressure to come up with this product.
That's his job.
That's his job. The Rolling Stones thing wasn't work. Like he did Rock and Roll Circus like a month before this, less than a month. If they're starting on this, I want to say it was like December 8th or one of those days was Rock and Roll Circus of '68. So then come in January 2nd, he's got to prep this anyway. He wanted it. He had like this vision and he wanted it to be all these things, but here's some guys there, especially George, who are dragging their goddamn feet. I don't even want to do the show. And then
that's
Paul
why I think
okay, yes, and.
But to your point, Tony, that's why I think he comes off looking heroic, because the fact that he could still put a film together out of this, knowing what we know now, maybe the film at the time was overly dour, but he didn't have George walking out.
Right.
Michael Lindsay Hogg didn't. And the argument, excuse me, I got to throw this up again because on my top 3 list of holy fucking shit moments, the George and Paul argument was 6 minutes here in the original. It's about a minute. I didn't. So Paul gets up at one point,
he gets up,
and
takes
then
the bass off,
back down. That was enthralling television. Yeah, that it went on so long. And to Michael Lindsay Hogg's credit, he didn't include all that in the 1970s. So that's what I'm referring. Yes, Casey, he's making himself part of the film in a sense that he's fetching a lot. He's sarcastic. He's tongue in cheek here and there. But at the same time,
up the room.
Those
damn fucking cigars.
With those cigars, right?
Maybe that's why they were in a shitty mood. I'd be in a terrible mood if I smell cigar smoke all day.
Kojak, fucking cool it. We're trying to sing. Topical reference, Kojak.
But to your point, TJ, he left it out of the film. Like he didn't include it in the film, and he put a film out that was like, really thoughtful. But I think the most important comment we obviously have to put up on screen.
All right. Well, fine. I quit. This is how it works. See you around the clubs.
Don't worry. We'll get Greg Mills on Tuesday. If you don't come back by Tuesday, we'll get Greg Mills.
Is watching. Dick James has always been a prick. That's Dick Jaws to you, John Woods.
That's business. It's money. I think you have to be that way, right? If you're money, Alan Klein, blah, blah. Don't you have to be? What's the word they used to call it?
A
I
shyster?
don't even care because I don't care about money. So
Well,
I
we're
forget.
living here with Alan Klein. And it's something count Shrewd, yeah. Yeah, I didn't know that. So was he saying that the Beatles company, that Northern Songs had bought all those Tin Pan Alley standards? I couldn't follow what was happening during that conversation.
Well, I think
What was that?
So yeah, day 7, right? Dick James. I thought Dick James owned Northern Songs. I mean, bleh. The Beatles bought all of Northern Songs, which I thought was Dick James's publishing company. So therefore, including the Beatles, it's also all this other stuff, Ain't She Sweet, etc. And if your mom makes a good shrimp or whatever that one song
from Forrest Gump. Shrimp and potato, shrimp sandwich, shrimp fajita.
Get back, Forrest. Get back. Forrest Gump don't dig no Pakistanis. Taking his job or
My
whatever.
mama told me don't dig no Pakistanis.
This is satire, by the way. Okay. That's what I thought it meant. And it was like now the Beatles bought Dick James's thing and now they own Ain't She Sweet, etc. That's gonna just accumulate money and all they have to do is sit on it or whatever. Potsy.
Pull a potsy. Did that a lot in college. Yeah,
legalize Potsy.
it's totally Anson Williams.
Oh, hold on.
What a guy. Yeah, please.
You're talking about old Ed Sullivan footage and stuff. What is how come we haven't seen Around the Beatles? When are they going to put that out? How many songs is that? I don't know that one.
Yeah, that's also on the list then of, you've seen clips of it. There may be an Around the Beatles clip in the Ron Howard film.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
I've seen that one maybe 3 or 4 times. So maybe I thought, but yeah, I hadn't seen that in Complete Beatles. I don't remember seeing that in Anthology. So it sounds like they were playing live, right? I couldn't tell.
I think so.
Okay. Not miming is what I mean.
No, they were not playing those mime games.
Make mime, not war.
Yeah, what I kept thinking too is I would love for Peter Jackson, and maybe this has been discussed at Apple because you can't stream Anthology and it's never been released outside of its home video release. I wonder if Peter I would love him to clean up and remaster Anthology and do a deluxe expanded edition of that. There's a director's cut of Anthology that was bootlegged for a long time that I got, I don't know how many years ago, that it's got a lot of time code and it's the edits are rough and it starts with In My Life and I think almost every episode as an opener. But it'd be great to see, like, I kept thinking, wow, to see Anthology redone as a longer form piece, knowing what we know now. Because again, like I said, if you're just joining us at the top of the show, has there ever been a Beatles product that's this intimate with those 4 gentlemen?
Anthology,
I think the answer is no.
Yeah. I think Anthology is as close as it gets because we got those new interviews at the time from the 90s and stuff. The fire pit and the boat and
fire pit. I want to see the unreleased parts. Oh yeah, I really like the Gin Blossoms. I think they're just a band. They're a good band.
New miserable experience. Top album. Yeah.
I love Found Out About You. All right, Paul.
Yeah. I also what was that one? Standing on a corner, that song. Anyway, whatever. Anyway, sampled BB King. I'm sorry. Now I'm stuck on
Doris Day. Matt Busby. Yeah. So Dick James comes off looking like a bit of a schmuck. Mal looks bewildered throughout the whole thing. Mal doesn't really speak until the end. He's lovable, but he looks a little bewildered.
Like when he finally gets to crack that anvil and that look of, he's like a little boy. It's so wonderful. And him contributing to the lyrics of Long and Winding Road, saying like, no, like very kind of with authority.
Standing versus waiting. Yeah.
Yeah. And like flipping him or whatever his contribution was cool. That was cool to see that.
It's not a Lennon McCartney. It's a McCartney Evans.
Yeah, man. It really is. Yeah, Lennon's got nothing to do with that.
That book from the late 80s, Beatles songs, the one that broke down. Wait, you might see my pajama. Hold on one second. I'm going to do something awkward. Wait a second. You're going to see my Bears pajamas. Hold on.
Stop the podcast.
And at this point, I'm just gonna take Tony off the stream for a minute because shit got weird.
Well, TJ.
I'm sorry, Tony. Didn't mean to slander you. TJ's back.
Slander me? What? Because Tony ain't brave enough to wear a WKR. My wife goes, "Why are you wearing a WKRP shirt to a Beatles podcast?" I'm like, "Because I'm different." Remember this book that broke down all the like?
Oh yeah.
Paul wrote 0.2% of Wild Honey Pie. You know, like
I love that.
This was huge for me in high school. I think a lot of it may be wrong, but it's what I learned from. You know, what do you do?
Right. Yeah, there's always some new Beatle fact that counters an old Beatle fact, and and Jimmy Nicol was there. Like once, I think once Jimmy Nicol heard his name uttered at Twickenham, he was like on the next cab out there.
Jimmy, you can only join if they play Amsterdam again. Like, okay.
No, his story's sad. There's that great book that came out. What was it, 250 Glimpses of the Beatles, and they have a chapter on Jimmy Nicol and what happened after the that tour, and basically he became this just impossible dude. It's really sad, actually. And anyway, yeah.
Renamed himself Stuart Copeland.
Well, good for him, man. He got out of that one.
Magic.
He got out of that one. I'm trying to think of some other things. There's so much. I mean, there's so much to talk about. I wrote down a lot. Boss Hogg, Across the Universe. I like that little comment when they were doing Across the Universe. Nothing's going to change my world. And Lennon, wish it fucking would.
It's so funny. And they're playing the version they play on the record player, the version from the World Wildlife Federation.
That's all that exists, right?
That's all that existed. And then it's sped up because then when they go into the studio, it's all like a key and a half lower.
Yeah.
It's like, they sped that up for the charity album, man. And the birds and the tweeting.
Oh, and also it was confirmed. Remember, we were talking some podcast a long time ago. We were talking about how the Beatles covered Somewhere Over the Rainbow, but didn't know it was from the film Wizard of Oz. They were covering it because they heard like a bluesy version of it or something. And there it was confirmed. Like Mal asked, like, "Have you ever seen the Wizard of Oz?" And Paul said, "No." Isn't that wild? And it's like, my wife's like, "Who's never seen Wizard of Oz?"
By 69, it wasn't being run on BBC4 every spring like it was here.
Yeah, I guess not.
Paul had seen, he later talked in the 80s when promoting Press to Play. He saw a documentary called The Wizard of Oz about former Cardinal shortstop Ozzie Smith.
I mean, it's 25% of that documentary is just backflips. Gets tiresome.
God, him and Cal Ripken are my least favorite shortstops ever. Fuck you guys. Yeah.
What? Who do you like? Ozzie Guillen?
I did love Ozzie Guillen. Despite being a Cubs fan.
Wait, who's your favorite shortstop? Real briefly, and which of the Beatles would have played shortstop?
I mean, do you have to call Jeter the best you've ever seen? I probably do.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Not the most athletic. Where's the show gone?
Who was the 80s? Who was the 86 Boston?
Shawan. Hold on. Let me get up my Shawana-meter. Yeah. Oh, he's batting 312. Oh, now he's batting 318. I'm like, all right.
And he swings at everything.
We can't talk about the 84 Cubs without Chicago Cubs baseball is brought to you by your True Value dealer. I brought up, and then we quickly got off of this, how the film looks. Could you believe you were looking at something that looked bright and not so dark? That was arresting to me from the beginning. The lights and the colors of the backdrop. I couldn't believe how gorgeous it looked, Tony. Did it change how you saw it?
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah. It was just crystal clear. I guess I was expecting that, but I loved seeing it that way. But you're right. Yeah, it lost its like dreary. I mean, yeah, it lost the dreariness. But I wanted double down on the fact that I love that he kept all the bickering in there, for better or for worse, just because of history. Like seeing them bicker, especially at that one meeting they had around day 5 or whatever it was. It was at the end of the day. They end end that day with that, where they're around the piano or whatever it is, just talking about what the fuck they're gonna do, and they're all talking over each other, and it's just chaos.
Yeah, it's ugly, and that was edited really well too.
Yeah,
and that inspired Paul McCartney's '93 hit, "Big Boys Bickering, Fucking It Up for Everyone."
that was his 90s Helter Skelter.
Hope of Deliverance is my Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Smells like deliverance. Evan or something says, I showed the trailer of the show to my mother, and she thought it was actors playing the Beatles. That's how good it looked.
Yes, that's how good it looked.
Well, I think, I want to say that was Tom Teeley as George.
Oh, here we go.
On day 3. He's the one that did the argument. That's why it was so good.
Well, it had to be an actor playing Paul, because Paul died. What year was that again?
68 or 66. 66.
Yeah. So, it's fair.
That is for, thank you, Casey. Correction.
Correction. If you watch this, let it get back part 1 backwards. At some point, you hear Paul is dead.
Yeah. Another thing, I loved seeing all those early songs when they were on day 2. They were trying to okay, let's go back to the old minefield. They eventually come up with one after 909. We all know, but I've never heard Just Fun, other than like Niagara snippets or whatever that don't sound great. Just Fun, Because I Know You Love Me So, Thinking of Linking, Won't You Please Say Goodbye. They're not my favorite songs, but I loved seeing them.
Why didn't they give those to Cilla Black? There's a big moment I had here too where, oh my God, I keep losing my train of thought. You'd think we'd never done this before. You were just talking about the early songs.
Yes.
Yeah, and seeing the joy in doing those. But one after 909, knowing what Billy Preston would then bring to it when he sat in, it's Billy Preston that kicks their revival of that song up several notches. I can't wait. And they allude to Billy Preston, George's conversation about how hot Billy Preston played. That's right. But Paul starts kind of shitting on it's like, oh, it's jazz.
It's basically jazz. No, it's not.
No,
yeah, he's talking about like Cream, probably, right? Like all those like long 19-minute improvisations live with what like Zeppelin, The Who, Cream, all that supergroup stuff. And he's talking about like, that's not I can't play like that. Eric can play like that and all that. But yeah, him alluding to Billy.
Paul and Trey Anastasio are awesome on Rift. They do a great version of Reba. Now I'm making up Fish songs.
Paul and a Trampoline is a great sight to see, though.
Bounce around the room.
I have a question for you guys. Do you think the George talking up Eric Clapton was him setting the stage? Like it read to me as like George kind of knows, like, I don't know if this is for me, and like I'm sick of this shit.
Yeah.
And like it just seemed kind of shocking to hear him talking them up, and then when you see him leave, and then immediately hear, was it George Martin who's like, well, do we get Eric in?
No. Oh, right.
John, I think, wasn't it?
Was it John who said that?
Yeah, John says if he doesn't show up by Tuesday or whatever it is, we'll get Clapton.
Was he planting the seeds for his own, like, I'm out. You guys have, there's people who can do this shit.
I think Casey George is like, God, I really want Eric to fuck my wife, and I don't know how to get there.
Because I need...
It's a very roundabout way to do it.
He's an artist.
That's not what happens.
No, but I think Casey's onto something with that. Yeah. Like George does plant that seed. And I mean, at one point he does say like, we need someone like Eric to come in and do this. And they say like, no, we need George Harrison to come in and do this.
It's John who says that, which is a beautiful, John was more supportive than I think anybody ever let on. John, even when he was perhaps smacked out, was still supporting George in that moment anyway. One quick thing, because we got to wrap in a second here, and we'll be back tomorrow at 9 Central and Saturday at 9 Central as well. I'm slowly eroding my marriage by doing this Thanksgiving weekend. My kid's going to think, oh, Dad cares more about the Beatles than me. And my therapist might say, you have a point. I'm kidding. I love my subordinating. But George Martin, I always knew he was perfunctory during this process, but seeing him there almost as an observer, you see Glenn Johns giving thoughts on Let It Be, but George is there more as a sounding board for the bigger picture. You never see George Martin producing. It's clear now. It lends. What I kept thinking is, oh yeah, when they approached him after this and said we want to do another record, which became Abbey Road, and George Martin said we got to do it like the old days. We got to go back to how it used to be. It was telling to me that George Martin has probably never had less to do, including in the White Album when they were all in different studios. Did that strike you at all, George Martin's presence and lack thereof?
Yeah, well, it made sense because these were just rehearsals. They're actually not recording anything, until George brought his machine in, and it took a few days to even set up or whatever. They don't have any real proper recordings from Twickenham, if I recall. It sounds like on day 7 he was just getting the machine set up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it makes sense that George Martin's presence is more peripheral or whatever, and Glenn Johns is there just to like make sure they can hear themselves, and also it was interesting to see him step into the George Martin role a little bit too, with arrangement suggestions and things like that. Yeah. It's curious. George Martin's. Yeah, you're right. It's funny. It's really funny how George Martin is really more not hardly even a supporting actor or whatever you want to call it in this film. And Glenn Johns and Michael Lindsay Boss Hogg are more, prominent roles. Yeah, that's curious.
That's one thing that kind of struck me. Another thing before we wrap, I heard one Niagara beep. I give so much credit for Peter Jackson leaving in one Niagara beep somewhere in the middle of the thing.
They're in there somewhere.
Stuff, and I hadn't heard everything. There's a ton of stuff in there I hadn't heard before. There's a lot I had heard on those the River Rhine tapes, the bootleg that I got mine on. And to hear this have cleaned up without, like, that's the big thing. Peter Jackson mixed this. He's found a way to make mono into stereo. I don't understand it. It can't be better than Chrome on your Maxell XL2s.
So yeah, Bert says Peter Jackson's work with the audio is probably what made the argument be able to be 6 minutes since Paul moved the mic away.
Great point.
Right.
Yes.
Right. That was such a moment too, Paul. Like, I can't do this on film or whatever. He wants to get into it, but he doesn't want to be seen. He doesn't want us to see that side of him. The other only close moment is when I love that bit where John and Paul are having a serious, like, kind of a close conversation about, like, okay, what songs you got? John, you need to come up with songs. And the boom mic comes up above them and they just start talking directly to the boom mic.
It's so funny.
But there's all this feedback going on. And then Paul kind of loses it in a bitty way, but that's about 75% real, with him screaming, like, stop the goddamn feedback or whatever he says.
Yeah.
That was doesn't want that shit on tape probably.
And just before George walks out, Paul's trying to conjure up a rhythm, and John starts playing a chunk of She's a Woman. And then about a minute or two later, John starts the riff for I Saw Her Standing There. And Paul goes, can you stop playing while I'm trying to give you the arrangement? Yeah. A second later, they break for lunch, and second later, lunch? George quits. Is just, again, I knew the story, but that's seeing funny, it and hearing it like that just rocked my Beatles soul. It was.
Is that what that riff is? That riff right before George quits?
He was playing I Saw Her Standing. He was going,
is that what that is? Yeah, I don't think I put that together. And I thought it was just like a rock riff or something.
I saw her standing there because, and the clearest you'll ever hear it is when John plays that with Elton John in '74. Fuck,
and it's just right. Like that.
Don't hate me, Beatle fans. November is Thanksgiving weekend is '74. I think in Madison Square Garden. Is it '74? I'm telling myself.
I want to say it's more like '73, but I don't know, man. I forget off the top of my head.
Just before retirement, right? I'm going to say November of '74 was when John did Madison Square Garden with Elton. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But when John starts playing and he goes, we just about know it. And he plays the riff exactly the way he did in this movie at Madison Square Garden.
There you go. There you go. Beatle forensics.
I can't play the X-Files theme. So we have to wrap so my marriage doesn't go away.
I understand. But thank you all for coming in. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for participating. I love all the comments. I'm sorry we didn't get to all of them, but thank you for commenting.
what a gift to have people. First of all, thank you for listening. This podcast started because Tony and I were losing our fucking minds in the pandemic, and we love the Beatles, and the Beatles make us happy. So thank you for following along with us, and please tell your Beatle friends. And if you like, comedy, go elsewhere, because I don't know what we do.
Thank you, KC. Happy
Mr.
Thanksgiving.
Same here. Thanks, guys.
Happy Thanksgiving. Before we go, what Beatle thing are you thankful for, guys?
Oh, part 2.
Did Casey have a stroke?
I was looking at my notes to be like, the thing I'm thankful for is John acknowledging that he showed up in the same clothes the second day.
Oh,
just got that level of honesty.
Continuity clothes.
Continuity clothes. That's a beautiful moment.
I'm thankful that Terry Hemmert played so sad from Dark Horse on Breakfast with the Beatles.
Me too.
What Terry, did you meant to play Simply Shady and accidentally hit one more over on your CD player? Come on, Terry. All right, we are the Untitled Beatles Podcast presents Twitch and Shout. We air every Tuesday at 6:00 Central right here in Chicago for real. We'll be back tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Central to talk about Get Back Part 2. Can't wait.
Untitled Beatles Podcast. Like and subscribe.